All right, go ahead.
Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the July 27th, 2020 meeting of the Goffstown Select Board. This meeting is being held remotely via WebEx. I have some instructions that I will read prior to the meeting. In accordance with the Governor's Emergency Order Number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, the Goffstown Select Board will utilize the emergency meeting provisions of RSA 91A to conduct meetings through electronic means while preserving, to the extent feasible, the public's right to notice of such meetings and ability to observe and listen contemporaneously. Public access the meeting by calling the following telephone number, 603-766-5646, with a participant code of 785-645, followed by the pound sign. If there are problems with access, members of the public experiencing problems with access during the meeting are asked to call 603-384-3624 for assistance. If you're watching the meeting live on Goffstown Television 22 or on the GTV Facebook page at facebook.com/GoffstownFacebook, Facebook will not be monitoring for public participation during the public comment. Residents interested in participating in public comment should call the public telephone access number. So I have a few ground rules and instructions that I need to read prior to the meeting. This is known as the Right to Know Law meeting checklist. As chair of the Goffstown Select Board, due to the COVID-19 outbreak, in accordance with Governor Sununu's Emergency Order Number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this board is authorized to meet electronically. Please note, there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to the meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the Governor's Emergency Order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, this is to confirm that we are doing several things. A, providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. The town is utilizing the WebEx platform for this electronic meeting. The public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting through dialing the following telephone number, 603-766-5646, and using the participant code 785-645, followed by the pound sign. Item B, providing public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting. The town previously gave notice to the public of how to access the meeting using the available telephone number with a posted agenda. Item C, providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anyone has a problem with telephone access, please call 603-384-3624 for assistance. And item D, adjourning the meeting. If the public is unable to access the meeting, in the event the public is unable to access the meeting, we will adjourn the meeting and have it rescheduled at that time. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. So let's start the meeting by taking a roll call and attendance. When each member states their presence, also please state whether there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the Right to Know law. I am Collis Adams. There is no one present with me at the time. Kelly? Kelly? You have to unmute, folks. Kelly, are you there? Peter?
Peter Georgiantis, there was no one in the room with me.
Thank you. Mark?
Hold on, Mark, you were muted.
Mark?
Mark, you're muted again.
Got to unmute, Mark.
Try that again.
There you go.
All right, nobody in the room with me.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, where did I leave off? I forgot. Chet?
Chad Bowen, and I'm the only one in the room.
I think I missed Peter. Did I get Peter?
Oh, we got Peter.
Yeah, okay, and got to go back to
Kelly.
Kelly.
Hello, I'm here on mobile. Having
Okay.
connected
Thank you.
in the room with me.
Okay, so we'll move on to the agenda. Everybody has their packet with them. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll recite the pledge. You folks can mute and join me if you'd like at your locations. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I had already made the announcement about the remote public participation. So the next item on the agenda is the acceptance and correction of the minutes from the July 13, 2020. There were both public and non-public minutes from that meeting.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes from July 13th, 2020, public and non-public.
Thank you. A motion by Peter. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
That is a second by Mark. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. I will abstain. I was not present at the meeting. Kelly?
Yes,
Peter?
Yes,
Mark?
Yes,
And Chet?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes 4-0-1. Next item on the agenda are announcements. I have no formal announcements, although I do want to share some kudos with the DPW folks and their crews and the great job they've been doing as far as repaving and striping our roads. Certainly not an easy time to be out in this kind of weather doing that kind of work, but we've made great progress, and I think there's been some great improvements to roadways throughout town. So I just wanted to share that with folks and send out those kudos. Does anyone else have announcements they'd like to share with the group? Seeing none. Our first public comment was at 6:10. I have 6:09. Is there anybody online, Derek, for public comment that you see?
No, Mr. Chairman, there's nobody on the telephone line for public comment.
Okay, seeing no one available or wanting to make public comment, we'll move along. Item number 5 on the agenda is the police chief with some highway safety committee recommendations. Good evening, Chief. Are you with us?
I am. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, good evening.
Oh, good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me.
This is on tab 6, by the way, in your packets.
So, I will just start with part of your packet. We'll just go right down the list here of the request for the street light on Pollard Road and Blackbrook Road. You can see from your packet that the Highway Safety Committee met on July 22nd of 2020, and we went through all the reports that the officers went through and did their study on this street light on Pollard Road at the intersection of Blackbrook, and it was determined that the Highway Safety Committee was not recommending to put a street light up in this area. Certainly for the fact that there's no crime data nor accident data to support it, but also there are multiple intersections on Blackbrook that are out there that don't have street lights. So I think if we started this as a Highway Safety Committee, the town would probably have to really start looking at doing all the intersections. And at this point, the Highway Safety Committee didn't feel it was a pervasive issue on Blackbrook to have a street light in that area.
Okay, thank you, Chief. What I'm going to do is go down through all of these, and then we'll take a motion on all of them in one fell swoop.
Okay,
So-
sounds good. I'll keep going then.
Thank you.
If anybody has any questions, please interrupt. So the next one was the request for no parking on the side of the road on Mountain Base by the pond. Many of you probably, if you have been up there, it's a pretty significant hiking area off of Mountain Base. And what we've been experiencing now is due to COVID, there's a lot of people up there hiking. So now both sides of the road are being used as parking. It's becoming a problem for safety where we are not able to get fire trucks through there due to the fact that both sides of the road are being used for parking. So we looked at it, the officer went out and investigated, and there's been a recommendation that there's already a small no parking sign on the south side of Mountain Base Road, and the Highway Safety Committee felt it was prudent to basically just extend it from where it starts and then bring it all the way down to McFarland Road. So it'll give you that whole south side of the road of no parking. So everybody coming into the Mountain Base where the hiking is will park on the right-hand side of the road on the pond side, and there'll be no parking on the left side. So at least there's some good egress in and out of there for fire apparatus and police. So basically, we've recommended having it just extend what's already there out to McFarland.
I have a question on this.
Yes,
Didn't
Go ahead,
we do this a couple years ago? Didn't we go through this? And during the public hearing, we made a change to reduce the amount of parking, no parking signs due to some of the residents up there. Derek, did you research that yet?
I can pull it up right now, but I believe last summer, this did the no parking ordinance, but it was on, I believe, north side. Maybe Chief Serino has a recollection, but I believe it was on the north side. I will pull it up to make sure that I have that correct, but that was last year.
so there was a no parking sign early on, but it was the ordinance that we looked at that was codified in 1985 was basically inside the mountain base pond area, and it talked about parking in the designated parking spots. And we didn't see anything on the north side because we had talked about that as a highway safety committee. Because I vaguely remember there was some no parking signs. There's nothing there, and there's no, to my knowledge, in the highway safety committee, we weren't able to find and codify no parking on that side. I think Adam.
We definitely did. Definitely did one last year, and
This was-
there were-
This
Go ahead,
was in the
Derek.
fall, of 2018. There was a public hearing, and it was to prohibit parking on either side of Mountain Base Road from the intersection of Orr Ave to the intersection of McFarland. So that was on both sides at that time. And I think
And,
Adam might have some more history.
Eric, that's not being enforced or being done.
I don't remember. Is that codified?
No, that was not passed. The board held the necessary public hearings on it, and there were some that spoke up at the public hearings, and that was not adopted. And I see Adam Jacobs has his hand up, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, hi, Adam. What do you have to offer?
Hi, folks. Yes, so in 2018, we put out to public hearing at the recommendation of Highway Safety, no parking on both sides of Mountain Base, but it was for that small stretch from Orr to McFarland, as mentioned. During the public hearing, we had a couple residents come in and request that to be amended to no parking on one side only. They didn't want both sides of the street for that little stretch to be no parking. I believe that was adopted as a single side. There are a couple signs up there now. As part of this research, I went through and just verified that we do have a few signs out, but I think they might need to be improved. Anyhow, that was a pretty short section. I guess the request here would be to continue that short section all the way down to the end of the public way.
Yeah, that's right. This would be the south side from McFarland to Railroad Ave. That's the recommendation coming from the Highway Safety Committee.
Is that recommendation different than the recommendation we had 2 years ago?
Yes, sir, it is. So 2 years ago, the recommendation was just the Orr Ave to McFarland, the short section there, right by the dam. But it was both sides. That was later amended to just the one side, but the length of it wasn't changed during the public hearing process.
So now this extends it to Railroad Ave.
Right. So this brings it from the pond area all the way to McFarland. And we're going to need some signs. If it gets passed, we'll have to get to that point where we have some significant signs up there so we can enforce it.
And then we're going to have, it has to have a public hearing once it goes through here, so
Yes.
we go
Yes.
through this process again.
Yep.
Right.
I just want to make sure that the residents get an opportunity, again, to come in and speak either for or against it.
If I recall,
And they'll have they will have that opportunity.
I think the big concern, if somebody might remember, was they were looking to have the ability to have a gathering at their house and have a place for folks to park. And if both sides were blocked up, they'd have to park a half mile away or something like that.
That's exactly right. I remember that conversation, so I want to make sure that those people get a chance to have their input again. I can understand their issue. That's making it kind of tough on them for guests.
Yeah. So that'll be an ordinance. So they'll have a chance at a public hearing to provide input.
And you'll see this in your packet. This comes from a resident up there who's been experiencing the traffic congestion as they're trying to get home and leave, and there's cars parked on both sides. So certainly something that we think, as far as emergency services, that we should consider, but obviously going to public hearing will help.
Thanks. Peter, do you have anything else?
No, I just want to make sure that those people who spoke up last time have the opportunity to speak again.
Yep, they will. Any other board members on this one? Okay, thanks. Let's go on to the next one, Chief.
So the next one is a request for a stop sign on St. Anthony's Drive at Daniel Plummer, heading towards the bypass. So coming from the college, heading towards the bypass, there's been a request to put a stop sign there for a three-way stop sign. Now, the Highway Safety Committee looked at this, and it was determined that although the stop sign at Daniel Plummer was sitting back a little bit off of the main intersection, the reason why this person wanted the stop sign was due to the fact that they are driving a mail truck, and part of their route is coming on Daniel Plummer, taking a right onto Santhams Drive down to the bypass, and they're having a hard time looking left on Santhams Drive towards Crockett and Robin. The Highway Safety Committee determined that although this is a little bit of not a difficult intersection, but there is a disadvantage driving a mail truck when you're on the right side of the vehicle and not the left side. So as you're looking to the left in a mail truck, across the mail truck with a small window, you are having a hard time seeing other vehicles on Santhams Drive. But we haven't had any accident data to support it. Plus, we had our radar out there. Our radar survey supported the average speed in that area was 34 miles an hour out of 15,000 vehicles. So we did not recommend putting a stop sign on that intersection. There was a conversation about if we were going to do that, it would be better off putting it a four-way, as sometimes taking a left off of St. A's taking a left off of Daniel Plummer as cars are coming up Santhams Drive was even more of a hazard due to the fact that you have the blind hill crest there. But as of right now, we've determined that it's not an issue, and we're not supporting that stop sign on Santhams Drive.
Thank you, Chief. Questions from board members on this one?
Well, I think it's important, Carlos. I think it's important to note that it's not just one mail truck. There's mail trucks are leaving out of the distribution center
Right.
off of Daniel Plummer Road. So it is numerous trucks. I understand what you're saying, but I do agree with the recommendation of the safety.
Yeah, and those mail trucks are all left-hand drive vehicles, right? And that's contributing to the problem, right?
Right.
Yes, they're on the opposite side.
Right. Anything else, Peter?
Nope.
Other members of the board, anything on this one? Thank you. Next one, Chief.
All right, this one's a request for a children at play sign at the top of Lynchfield Park Road and at the bottom by Chattel. The officer that went into this investigation did a really good job, very thorough. But based on the amount of traffic that's in there on Lynchfield Park Road, and based on the data that we saw with the radar trailer to support that the average speed down there was, let me just look at this. Out of a total of 1,200 vehicles of a 3-day long study, the average speed was roughly 19 miles an hour. The other part that we talked about was there is significant signage already in that area due to the crossing of the rail trail. In fact, in one of the pictures in the packet, they took a picture of a bicyclist crossing where there is a pedestrian sign already there and a bicycle crossing at the crosswalk that's already lined across the street. So the Highway Safety Committee felt that based on all the signs that's already there, based on the fact that the speed is not really the problem according to our data, that we did not recommend putting the children at play sign. And we feel that because there's already enough pedestrian signs there, it would just be ineffective. And as we know, the more signage on the street, the less people pay attention.
Thanks, Chief. Questions from board members on this one? No, seeing none, we'll move on. Chief.
The next one is a a no through fare sign, no through traffic sign on Grady Hill Road. The resident there just purchased the property, feels that there's a lot of traffic that's cutting through from Montalota Road onto East Dunbarton to go from Goffstown to Hooksett. The officer went out there, took a look at it. The main complaint here was more of the vehicle's traffic, noise, and potentially a little bit of trash. The officer talked to the person who made this complaint, and the person's right on the roadway and is very close to the stop sign. So they just moved there. So now they're experiencing an influx of what they consider traffic. Based on this, there's no other major issues on this road. So the Highway Safety Committee voted to not recommend putting a no through traffic sign there. The officer had also worked significantly with the homeowner to make some suggestions on how to, reduce noise in their yard by using some natural means and also some fence type of, privacy fence to help with that. So we did not recommend that.
Thank you, Chief. Questions from the board on this one? Okay, seeing none, I said earlier, we're going to take these in one fell swoop. I see that we can't do that. Specifically, we need to take action on two specific items. One is the no parking ordinance. So we'll have to take a motion. Let's take those motions separately first, and then we'll deal with the remainder. So we need a motion relative to scheduling a public hearing for a no parking ordinance on the south side of Mount Base Road from McFarland Road to Railroad Ave. So I need a motion to schedule.
I'll make a motion that we schedule the public hearing for Mountain Base Road and McFarland Road to Railroad Ave for no parking on the south side.
I'll second that.
Peter, and a second by Chet. Is there any discussion on the motion? I'll call the roll. I vote yes. Kelly?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
And Chet? Thank you. The motion passes 5-0-0. And then the other one we need to take specific action on is to recommend that DPW assist with tree removal to improve the sight distances for a blind driveway. Can I get a
I'll make a
motion?
motion to direct DPW assist with tree removal to improve the sight distance, which will eliminate the need for a blind driveway sign.
Thank you, Chet. And a second from Mark. Thank you, Mark. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. I vote yes. Kelly?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
And Chet?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes 5-0-0. And now we can take the remainder of them as they've been presented. So I can get a motion relative to the remainder of the Highway Safety Committee recommendations. I appreciate that.
I'll make a motion on the Highway Safety Committee on not to recommend items 1, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Thank you, Peter.
Second.
Second by Mark. Thank you, Mark. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call the roll. I vote yes. Kelly?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
And Chet?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes 5-0-0. All right, next on the agenda, Public Works Director, Adam, you have a presentation? And some bids and,
I do. Hi, good evening.
hi, Adam.
Okay, so sorry, I'm trying to improve my lighting over here. I took a lampshade off. I think you can see me now.
Tab 6A.
Yeah. Okay. So first up, we've got, we had held back previously on the award of the dump body and plow setups for the 6-wheel dump truck and the 10.5 dump truck. We wanted to do a little bit of due diligence on the low bid proposals just to make sure that they were going to meet our specifications. Mechanic has done that. The low bidder for both was Viking Civis. The bid on the 10.5 body was the actual bid itself was $61,750. But they had actually also bid an alternate that the mechanic liked better than his spec for this particular setup. So the actual award amount would be $60,900, as you see in the packet. The low bidder for the six-wheel body was also Viking Civis, and they bid $77,000. We didn't have any issues with their proposal there. So if awarded tonight, both trucks combined would come in under their CIP amounts. And as you might recall, we had a request to trade in the ton and a half at a later date once we receive the new vehicle, just so we don't go without a more flexible vehicle for that probably winter time period here. So looking tonight for two recommendations, one for the ton and a half dump body and plow gear Viking Civis for $60,900 and one for the six-wheel dump body for $77,000.
So do you see the recommendations? There are questions or comments from board members?
I have a question.
Yes, Peter?
Have we, I don't remember seeing Viking Civis previous 6 years. Have we used them before?
I don't believe we've used them for heavy equipment before. I think that potentially an attachment or an implement for either the Bombardier or one of the sidewalk plows in the past. In my previous employment in Merrimack, I dealt with Viking in a couple instances. They've actually got an office now closer than they had at the time. I think they had an office in New York. Now there's an office in Vermont as well. So I think they're trying to make a little headway into the area. From my dealings with them so far, they've been pretty customer service friendly, and we didn't see anything that would lead us to believe otherwise in this case.
And Tenco was the one we had an issue with at one time, right?
We have had a hiccup with Tenco in the past, yes, sir.
Okay.
That was, I think, they ran into some issues with the Viking state bid, the Vermont DOT state bid, and that backed up the whole supply chain, and that was quite a process.
Oops, sorry, folks.
Zach, you call?
Anything else, Peter?
No, that's it.
Other board members have anything for Adam relative to the bid?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, please do.
I'll make a motion that we award the 26 six-wheeler body and plow gear, the Viking Civis USA. I believe that one's the $77,000 one.
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion made by Peter and seconded by Kelly. Let's take these separately. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the roll. I'll vote yes. Kelly,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Mark,
yes,
and Chet.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes 5-0-0. Now there's a recommendation on the next
I make
vehicle.
a recommendation on the 2020 1.5 ton dump truck body and plow gear, and that amount is $60,900. And that goes to, again, to Viking Civis.
Thank you. I heard a motion by Peter and a second by Mark.
Yep.
To approve the recommendation. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the roll. I vote yes. Kelly? Kelly?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Mark?
yes,
And Chet?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes 5-0-0.
Okay, thank you very much. To continue on with the CIP discussion, we do have a few more vehicles that, if the board sees fit, we would be ready to request advertisement of bid specifications for. We have a 2007 one-ton service body pickup truck. That's a mechanic's vehicle, so it's got the toolboxes and extra gear in the back for road service calls. A 2007 skid steer loader, which is right now it's on highway duty. We use this equipment though also in solid waste. So the way we purchase these, at least in the past few years, is the America the Beautiful grant can go towards purchase price, because the new machine that we put into service, we put in at the solid waste facility in the recycling building. So then we rotate through. So we take the old one out of the recycling building where it's only seen indoor for the most part duty, and we put it on highway until it's ready to be replaced. So that's worked out pretty well. Hope you don't ask me, because I might have to dig for it, or maybe Danielle has it, how much the grant kicks in towards that purchase. But it's a good chunk. And then the third item, if you see fit tonight, would be our yard horse, which is a terminal tractor. So that just sees duty up within the transfer station compound, moving trailers around. So when our long haul trucker is off, we use the yard horse to back up trailers, move them around, get them into the backs of the buildings, and get everything jockeyed around. So That is a 1986. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes the other day, I wouldn't believe it. The guy pulled up to me as I pulled into the transfer station and wanted to chat. He shut off the machine and we talked for about 10 seconds. And as we were talking, one of the windows just shattered into 1,000 pieces right in front of our eyes. So it's literally disintegrating as we talk. It certainly can be fixed with some plexi, but it's beyond time. So looking at about a 20-year service life of this vehicle. So I would say the one that we've got, which we purchased secondhand years ago, is had its time in the sun. So the way I wrote up the recommendation would be to advertise for bids. I think last year Megan had put the Yard Horse out to bid and didn't get a whole lot of interest. Unless you want me to go sole source and just find a place and come back with a number, what I would recommend that we do is put it out to bid, but then we at the same time find a few places that have one and invite them, with a nice handwritten letter to apply for.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can certainly we get a little bit of time there. It might get a little nasty in January with that thing, but for right now we could find something.
So the action we're looking for tonight is merely a recommendation to advertise the bids on the 1-ton service body truck with a plow package, the skid steer loader, and the used Yard Horse. So this is just a recommendation from this board to advertise those bids.
Yes,
Question?
Yes, Peter. Is that Peter?
Well, I have a couple.
Yes, go ahead, Peter.
Are any of these additional vehicles?
Oops, I muted myself. No, they are not. They would be 1-for-1 replacements, and then when we receive them, the 3 that we have, we'd have to dispose of those. So however you'd like. If you put an option on the sample bid spec to include a price for trade-in, if anybody would like to offer something, that would be a decision for the board to make. But no, the idea would be 1 in, 1 out, all 3 of them.
I think that's a good idea, Adam.
Second is Yard Horse. A few years ago, we were looking to go out and find a used one because we didn't use it. Now, do you intend to do that again, or are you going strictly new?
I'd like to go used. We only have, I think, 40,000 in CIP listed for that for a used item. I believe we can find one. It's just a matter of connecting the dots between having it out to bid and finding a place that's got one and inviting them to bid. Otherwise, they won't. So that's kind of where we'd like to go with that.
I'm good.
Good, Peter. Anybody else have questions or comments on this item for Adam? Seeing none, I take a motion for a recommendation.
Make a motion, we go out to bid for the 3 items that DPW director brought to us tonight.
Specifically, that's the 1-ton service body truck and plow package, the skid steer loader, and the used Yard Horse. I heard a motion from Peter and a second by, I didn't catch you.
I did, Chet.
Thank you, Chat. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. I vote yes. Kelly?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
And Chet?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes 5-0-0.
Okay, thank you very much. The last item for this section that I've got looks like the Shirley Hill tree. So as we were excavating for drainage on Shirley Hill, there was a tree that the root system was pretty exposed based on the embankment, and the tree was kind of high compared to the road. So when we're excavating down to the roadside, coming right through some of the root mass, there were a couple of pretty good-sized roots that were completely insect infested, and then the real good size, maybe the size of somebody's thigh, that came right through where the drainage was going to go. And as the operator dug, it just came right off. It was no resistance at all, so pretty compromised. Because of the nature of Shirley Hill as a scenic road, I gave the planning board chair a call. I knew they had a meeting coming up, but also a deadline to get on to the next meeting. So I asked her if this tree had been discussed during that meeting, or if she felt that I could come to the board as a public nuisance rather than come to the planning board in August. She asked me to send her some info. I did so. Probably the planning director. They talked about it just on short notice at the planning board last week. Decided they had no qualms about this coming to the planning board. To the select board. So here I am. Under RSA 231-145, the select board, as I included in the packet materials, the select board can declare a tree a public nuisance. If you do, then I've got to put the abutting property owner on notice, which I can do. They actually left me a message. I left a card in their dorm. So I can call them back and we can talk about it. But assuming they have no reason to complain or decide they don't want the tree removed, then we can remove it. Otherwise, we send them a certified letter and wait 30 days. Once the appeal period passed, we can cut the tree.
So Eversource has agreed to top it off?
They have not yet. I was going to just touch base with the homeowner and make sure that they don't have an issue with it being removed first. And then if so, then I'll call Eversource and see what they can do.
Okay. Questions from board members for Adam on this one, the nuisance tree?
Question. Adam,
Yes.
so if we remove that tree, could we just repack the side of that banking with some crushed granite, like 3 or 4 inch or 2-inch stone, and just pack it in there? Would that be a better view, not being obscured by any type of tree?
It may, we may want to leave what's left of the root system there as sort of an embankment stabilization.
Okay.
When we're done there, we'll loam and seed. That's a very steep slope, though, as you probably saw in the pictures there. So maybe anything we can leave in there. Normally like a riverside, that's what we would do. We'd leave the root system, because as long as that root's got any life left to it, it will hold the bank up a little bit.
Yeah, I would agree with you. That's typically what's done. That the stump in the root system provides great soil stabilization as long as the stump, lasts. So I would agree that's the way to go. The way we typically go along waterways. Any questions for Adam on this? Hearing none, I'm looking for a motion on a recommendation to designate that pine tree in the right of way. Go ahead, Peter.
I'll make a motion that we approve the removal of the tree on Shirley Hill Road.
Okay, it's a public nuisance and authorize DPW to proceed with the removal.
Yeah, well, you got to contact the property owner too. I mean,
Right.
see with the procedure. How's that?
Okay, so I got a motion by Peter. Can I get a second?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mark. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. I vote yes. Kelly,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
and Chet.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes 5-0-0.
Thank you very much. Folks, the only wrinkle with that one, and maybe a question for Derek, the law says that the selectman shall notify me in writing of said decision. I'm going to assume that the official minutes will serve as that written notice. You think that's sufficient, Derek?
Yeah, we can also do a form letter up to send out to the abutters, just to kind of put in the file for that one, so I can work with you this week and get that to you tomorrow.
Yeah, let's do that.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you, Derek.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Adam.
No other questions for me. I'll see you in a little bit.
Thanks. Next on the agenda is the town administrator's report, which is tab number 7.
Yes.
Eric.
So the first item you have is your committee meeting schedule for the next 2 weeks. On Thursday of this week at 7 p.m., CIP will be meeting remotely. I know that link went out this morning.
I'll be there.
Next week, the EDC will be meeting on Wednesday, and just a note that the new time, this committee is now meeting at 6 p.m. on the first Wednesday of each month.
Yep, I'll be there.
Thank you, Chet.
And then Thursday of next week at 7 p.m. will be CIP again, remote.
I'll be there as well.
Thank you.
On your next page, you have your consent agenda. You have a firefighter 2 EMT step increase. You have a fire lieutenant step increase. You have a firefighter AEMT to lieutenant AEMT promotion. You have a fire lieutenant stipend for ancillary duties. A firefighter AEMT to lieutenant promotion. And then another fire lieutenant stipend for ancillary duties. A part-time paramedic new hire. A part-time firefighter 2 EMT new hire. A DPW truck driver new hire, DPW laborer new hire, and a school resource officer, the change in status for ending an assignment. You have a motor vehicle title, 2013 Ford Taurus 4-door sedan. This is a transfer between departments to be signed as both the seller and the buyer. You have the sports field tree installation contract for Knott's Land Care that needs a signature of the chair. You have the fire warden bill to the state of New Hampshire, fire permits. This is a new item that this board has not seen, but the fire chief and the staff over there determined that we are able to bill out to the state for the number of fire permits that are sent out. So this is for the first half of the year to get reimbursement for that service that we provide. And then there's also a betterment assessment warrant for Litchfield Danish Park Drinking Water Project. This is a one-time payout in the amount of $2,000, $2,689.68. It needs the entire signature of the entire board.
So I saw those items in the signature folder. I think they've all been addressed. I'm not sure about the betterment assessment warrant. I don't recall if the entire board had signed that yet. But we do need to take a motion on the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Chet.
Second,
Seconded by Mark. Motion and second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any discussion on the motion?
Questions?
Oh, go
I
ahead,
have
Peter.
questions.
Right.
Yep, hold it. Okay, Peter first, and then I heard Kelly.
Okay. On the vehicle transfer, are we eliminating a vehicle or is this an additional?
This is not an additional, this is a transfer from the police department to another department. Police department are titled completely different because of the way that they do the municipal police license plate, so it just needs to be retitled. I believe this is going over to DPW.
So we're not increasing the fleet.
That's correct. On our end, the old cruiser that we had previously, which has been taken off the road by the mechanic, will be put out to auction.
Okay, so it's a replacement. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Then the second thing, I don't know if this is Derek or Danielle, the revenues from the fire warden bill, where does that go?
Those would stay in the fire department. I don't know that we've identified the specific revenue line. Danielle can speak to that.
It would stay in the fire department revenues, but it would be part of the general fund. So at this point, we could set up a new revenue line for it or collect it under our miscellaneous, which is probably what we would do is fire department miscellaneous revenue to general fund.
So
It's
it goes to
not
the general
EMS.
fund. Yeah,
Yep, not EMS.
All set, Peter?
all set?
Yeah, I thought, Kelly, did I hear you wanting to comment?
Yes, please. I had a question about the fire permit reimbursement as well. Is that something new that we're doing?
This is something new. The fire chief may be able to fill you in. He's got a little bit more of the background.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your questions, Selectwoman Boyer. Yes, so this is something new that we recently discovered, that the state has designated fees that any fire department can actually submit for reimbursement when we actually physically write a fire permit. This does not include any permit that someone has done online.
Okay. And do you know if it'll be ongoing?
It will absolutely be ongoing.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else from board members? Okay. So let's see, I think that deals with the consent agenda. So I need a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. I don't think we've done that yet, if my notes are right.
Mr. Chair, I believe Selectman Bowen made the motion and Selectman Lemay seconded.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? No, then that's to approve the consent agenda. Hearing no discussion, I'll call the roll. I vote yes. Kelly,
Yes?
Peter,
Yes.
Mark,
yes.
and Chet?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries 500. Next on the agenda is the quarterly health adjustment. That's item number 7C in your packet.
Yes, so once again, you have the budget transfer request from the finance director. Again, this is the quarterly benefit cash out for those employees that qualify, that receive health insurance from their spouse or another provider. And this makes the adjustment for those departments that pay those funds out of wages.
Thank you, Derek. Any questions from board members on this transfer request for funds? No, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, we approve the budget transfer request from the reallocation of $40,964.62 from the insurance benefit to the various wage lines as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Mark, and a second from Chet. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. I vote yes. Kelly? Kelly?
Yes.
Thank you. Peter?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes, sir.
And Chet?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes 500. Next is item 7D in your packet. Let's see, 7D.
Yes, so what you have in your packet is a detailed, you have a letter from the Granite State Health and Fitness Foundation. This is a group that puts on the Glen Lake Swim every year for the past couple of years. They are asking to donate the installation of granite steps back of the Parks and Rec property to provide better access to Glen Lake. So there's really, I'm looking for two motions here. It'd be to accept the donated granite steps in the approximate value of $5,000. And also, there is a small strip of land that is deeded to Eversource as part of the damming rights to Glen Lake. It would be to sign the necessary, let's see, I think it's a license agreement is what, yes, and a license agreement between the town and Eversource to actually construct those over that strip of land.
Thank you.
Motion we accept-
I have a question.
motion we ex- no. I'll make a motion, we accept the grant
Well,
of
I have one.
$5,000 for the steps.
Okay, thank you. So I got a motion by Peter. Do I have a second on the motion?
I'll second.
I'll second for questioning.
I had heard a second from Chet first.
Okay.
Discussion. I do have a question. It says the full $5,000 is quoted by Podger. Where's the quote from Podger? I didn't see that quote or documentation from Podger in here.
That was not provided. The Granite State Health and Fitness Foundation had worked with Podger to develop the project and are proposing donating the finished project to the town and getting permission to do that rather than donating funds to the town.
So if I understood that right, we're really not doing anything with the purchase. We're just accepting the dollar amount of $5,000 donation.
Yes, we're accepting improvements on town. Well, I guess it's actually on Eversource property that has a value of approximately $5,000. And then we would also be signing the license agreement with Eversource.
Right. And who's going to oversee the work? Is that DPW, I assume?
Parks and Rec.
Oh, Parks and Rec, right. Well, working with DPW, I assume, use their expertise because it talks about creating some drainage swales with stone lining and whatnot to make sure that's done properly.
Yes, we actually, Eric, if you don't mind, I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, go ahead, Rick. Glad you could join us.
Yeah, so Eric kind of drew it all up on what we would need. And based on that drawing and those needs, that's what we came up with for this proposal would be about a $5,000 job. So, and yes, we would oversee it, and I'm sure, DPW would oversee it as well too.
Yeah, that's great. I know that was an item that the ad hoc committee looked at as being important, so I'm glad to see it moving forward.
And these will be permanent, they'll be permanent. You won't have to take them in and out forever. And it'll be a nice ad, very nice ad.
Yeah, it will be, I agree. Questions from
Question.
Kelly? Yeah?
Thank you. I see that we had the license agreement reviewed by Primex. And Derek, I just wanted to know if there was what the comments were specifically. I know last time we had some vague statements in there from Eversource, and I just want to make sure that's set to go as is.
We have sent this to Primex review, but we have not received the final review back from Primex yet. Eversource did say that this is a standard agreement that they use from Primex. So if you'd like to hold off on the license agreement until next meeting, or to approve with recommended changes coming back from Primex. But we sent that to them last week and have not yet heard back from them.
So I like that alternative better, Derek. It keeps the process moving. So I guess we're looking forward. I'm looking for now for a motion with consideration as Derek had just laid out for comments coming back from Primex.
And Mr. Chairman, if you look in your packet at 7D, you have the two recommended motions, and the second one does indicate that it's as approved by the town's property liability insurance provider, Primex.
Yep, so the wording is in the motion, the recommended
Yes.
motion. Okay. So I'll entertain a motion from one of the members.
I believe we already did the first one with Peter and myself.
Did we do that?
I made the motion to accept the donation from the Granite State Health and Fitness for the approximate amount of $5,000. And I believe it was Chet that seconded it.
Okay, then why don't we take these separately then, since we've already had a motion and a second on it. So the motion is to accept the donation from Granite State Health and Fitness. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. I vote yes. Kelly?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
And Chet?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes 5-0. Now a motion to authorize the select board chair to sign the license agreement approved by the town's liability insurance provider, New Hampshire.
The motion to authorize the select board chair to sign the Eversource license agreement as approved by the town's property liability insurance, provided New Hampshire Primex.
Thank you, Peter. Second to that motion
Yes, sir.
by Mark. Thank you, Mark. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. I vote yes. Kelly?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
And Chet?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes 5-0. Now we're moving on to 7E, which is a CIP purchase, an RFP for Office 365 implementation. That's at tab 7E in your
Yes.
packet.
So in this year's approved operating budget, the town hall and IT had budgeted $40,000 for purchase of office license for town-wide. The plan was to purchase it outright. The current version that we use is due to expire and to stop being Main Street support in October. So again, we budgeted $40,000. That was before the pandemic hit, and we've started looking a little bit more if Office 365 would be more appropriate. Office 365 offers a lot more online collaboration and file storage. The other big benefit to us would be web conferencing. Right now, we're using WebEx, and we are sharing accounts across departments. Each department may have their own one, but there are multiple people in each department that need it, so it takes quite a bit of coordinating to use it. This also would provide online file storage for email and would better help us if we need to utilize remote work in the future. The overall cost on an annual basis, we believe, would be less than the $40,000. Right now, we estimate the license cost would only be $15,000, but it does change to a subscription-based model where we would be paying that out a year. And then there is an implementation cost that we would need to incur as part of this. We anticipate that would be about between $10,000 and $15,000 this year. So what we have proposed is to kind of course change on this, go to Office 365, bite the bullet to go to the subscription-based, and asking for the board to authorize the RFP that is in your packet for that.
So the action from this board is just to authorize the issuance of the RFP. Questions from board members for Derek on this item?
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Kelly.
Thank you. Derek, does this include committees and boards, these totals as well for users who have email and whatnot?
Yes, it includes the Goffstown Select Board, the sewer commissioners, and the supervisors of the checklist, all that use the goffstownnh.gov email addresses. Currently other boards or committees, we do not provide email addresses, but we could work through that if there's a need to do that. This does, the change to Office 365 does make this a little bit easier because you have a per month per user cost for that, and the emails would be stored externally. So it's not something that we necessarily are backing up on servers here at Town Hall.
Other
Okay.
questions? Kelly, do you have further questions?
No, I'm all set.
Okay, thank you. Any other board members with questions on this item?
I'd like to make a motion to authorize the release of the attached RFP to move forward with Office 365 implementation.
Thank you, Peter. Motion by Peter. Can I get a second?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mark. Second has been made. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. I vote yes. Kelly?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
And Chet?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes 5-0-0. Next on the agenda is item 7F. This is the unlicensed dog warrant. Again, it's 7F in your packet.
Yes, so on a bit of background on this, on your meeting on June 22nd, the select board received the list of unlicensed dogs from the town clerk's office, and in accordance with RSA 466:14, issued a warrant for unlicensed dogs to send out to require a civil forfeiture of $25 plus a fee of $5 per household. Those letters did go out at that time. There was no relief from the governor's office or from the Department of Agriculture for following those timelines. As we've reached the end of those letters did go out, and it required people to come in and license their dog and pay those fees by Friday, July 24th. So as we came to the end of that period, we did have some people come in that were unhappy with that. We did explain the lengths that the town clerk did go to. She contacted Senator D'Alessandro, the governor's office, as well as the Department of Agriculture. But the question came up of, could we waive that civil forfeiture fee? The board does not have the authority because it is written in statute that you shall do this. However, since that period last week, we did find out that the Attorney General's office was of the opinion that you could not issue the warrant for unlicensed dogs. Unfortunately, this came after the statutory period when you would have had to do that. But working with NHMA, they have advised that you could make the decision to rescind that warrant and thereby postpone the need for people to come in and pay that civil forfeiture. It does not relieve dog owners from the need to license their dogs. It's really that extra $25 fee and $5 per household fee. We would expect if you were going to rescind that warrant and kind of take us back a few steps, it would be appropriate to refund those civil forfeitures that have already been collected. As of the middle of the week, we had approximately 120 dog owners of the 400 plus that have come in and paid that. So there would be the staff time to go and research and refund those. And that's kind of where we're at with that, but I did want to bring it to your attention because I know that there have been a handful of residents that have reached out to the town clerk's office, my office, as well as the select board members on this issue.
Yeah, there has been a lot of feedback on this, and it is a sensitive issue for a lot of folks. So I'd like to get a feel for how the board thinks of this, or what they think of it, or which direction should we head.
Hollis, Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I
Peter?
think this is a no-brainer. I mean, we're working with other systems and things that have gone wrong. We've worked with people on, and we know what the situation is here. I think we should rescind and pay back the ones that we've already collected.
Mr. Chair, I feel the same way.
Okay, thank you, Chet. Any other members want to weigh in on this?
I'm all set. We can return the money. I'm all good for that.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
Good with me too.
Okay, thanks, Kelly. So I think everybody's weighed in. Somebody want to make a motion then, please?
I'll make the motion that we rescind the forfeiture fees and return the ones that we've already collected for the delinquent dog tax.
Thank you, Peter. Second by, was that Chet?
Yep.
Yes, thank you. So motion by Peter, second by Chet to return those fees. Any discussion on that motion?
And not collect any further, though. It was a two-part motion.
Yep.
We're not going to collect anymore or chase people down for it either. And we're going to return what we've already collected.
We've already collected, right.
Okay,
Right.
just making sure.
Mr. Chair, can I clarify?
Yeah, go ahead, Derek, please.
So speaking with New Hampshire Municipal Association, they're legal. They said it would be appropriate for the board to rescind the warrant for unlicensed dog, basically undoing the vote that you took on June 22nd, and then to extend the timeline for people to come in and have their dogs licensed.
So would it be appropriate, Derek, to say they should be in before January 1st? Is that what we're thinking?
Yeah, we should put some time on it, some time limit.
What I would recommend is at this point is that you extend the deadline until, and I just want to look at a calendar. Your meeting on your September meeting. I just want to see what that is, because if there is a change by the governor and he pulls that emergency order that no longer gives you authority to
So Derek, how would this work?
Wait a minute, hold it.
I'm just wondering if we shouldn't just extend it to the second meeting in September, and then in September's meeting, if the same situation in September, we do it again, say till October or November.
Yeah, we can revisit it. What is the date of that meeting in September?
September 28th.
Okay. So there will be two parts to the motion. One would be to rescind the 622 vote, and the second would be to extend the deadline and for the board to revisit it at the September 28th meeting. I have that wording correct, Derek?
Yes, that is the preferred motion I would ask for.
Okay. Can I get a motion to that effect, please?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you,
I'll
Peter.
also second.
And a second from Chet. Thank you, Chet. Any discussion on that motion? Everybody understands the motion? Okay, thank you. Seeing no discussion, I'll call the roll. I vote yes. Kelly?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
And Chet?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries 5-0-0. Okay, that brings us to agenda item number 8, which is the department head updates. At tab number 8. Let's see, what have we got? I see one from Adam, DPW Director. Adam, you want to speak to your update?
Yes, sir. The big news for us is Shirley Hill project continues onward. The concrete placement for the deck of the second of the two culverts was last week, so should be able to get into phase 2 here tomorrow when the crew returns to work to get the curbing formed up, and then we can let the subcontractors for concrete and guardrail, do their thing after that, and mobilize more forces down the street, which we started with a drainage installation there already as well. The paving contractor took care of Grady Hill Road, as was mentioned earlier during highway safety, Prospect Street, and then depending on what you call it, French and Rising or Clint Rising Way there from the funeral home down to South Mast. And Upper Worthley Hill Road had a Band-Aid shim. Shoulder gravel, as I mentioned at the last meeting, we caught up, and now that they paid more, we've re-caught back up at most of those spots, as well as the pavement markings contractor came back in. I'll put a reminder for you, so I'm not the only one with the secret, but you might remember from last year, the paving contractor that we had last year owes us a little bit of footage. They were going to come back. They had a little bit of the issue with the weather and the striping not lasting. So we've got them on call for our post reclaim striping, starting with Shirley Hill. So hopefully we'll be able to cash in on that and settle the tab with them. As we discussed at the last meeting, the village precinct has decided to replace the water main on East Union after all. That was an on again, off again. So they are on and they started work there. I think they actually started Friday morning, but in force today. So they expect a week and a half to 2 weeks over there for their portion of, but because they had decided to replace that, Sewer and I discussed DPW coming in afterwards, instead of having the Sewer Commission temporary pave the area and then the village precinct come back, rip up that asphalt and then repave temporarily, and then have the sewer contractor come back for a full width overlay of an area that still needs to be reclaimed with a little bit of drainage work and some sidewalk work in 2 years, to just do it now, save everybody on some asphalt costs. And that way we can get a good product for the townspeople with a lot less interruption over the years to that neck of the woods. And certainly save us some money too, because we can get a 2.5-inch base pavement layer half funded by the Sewer Commission rather than 2.5 inches of DPW asphalt. So that's about $11,000 right there, just in that piece of asphalt savings. So I'd proposed to the board at the last meeting to reclaim and replace that sidewalk for that 700 feet. And the total cost for that project is about $50,000. Probably will come in a little less when we get the new asphalt pricing and we kind of see the effect on the tonnage. But for the cost and for the savings there, it's almost a 20% savings, or it is a 20% savings. So I think it's worth doing now and rather than wait. It is identified in the 5-year road plan. If we wanted to wait, I believe it's year 2022 to come back in. As I mentioned, we would not be getting to the remainder of East Union this year, so that gives us a little bit of time to talk with the bus company and back to the board and kind of figure out what the best solution is there for sidewalk / rail trail connection. But a good opportunity and a good time to do it. Funding for that would come from the sidewalk repair budget, as I mentioned, but also when we build out the annual road plan, we call it a contingency line on our side, but it's not just for contingencies. It's really for any scope changes throughout the year as things like this come up, or if we get an early jump on the year and the paving season lasts longer than we think, or maybe a late fall, we can usually add a road or two at the end of the year. So we like to try to chip away at the top end of the following year's road plan list. So we do have funds available for that. So that would come into play here, and also for the next bullet, which would be if for some reason we come to the end of the year and it's not the end of the year yet, we have some time, or we see a continued favorable trend in asphalt pricing. We may have some additional, if we do have some additional funds right now, but we may continue to. I'd like to start looking at the 2021 list, which the board had, I think, approved a couple of years ago when you saw the 5-year plan. I'm not quite ready for the current 5-year projection to get back to you, but last time you saw it, I think all these roads were on it. If time and budget allow, I'd like to maybe get an early authorization to at least start thinking about the little stub of Kennedy Hill Road by the farm. That's about 700 feet there as you come up from Addison. Langen Drive is in real rough shape. That's slated for next year as a reclaim. That's a good place maybe to end a season since it's a lower traffic area. Same thing with Range Road. There's 2 ways in and out of that neighborhood. So that's a good one that we can kind of take our time with. If we run out of time at the end of the season, pick back up again without disrupting too many lives too badly. And then Walnut Hill Road is one of the streets that's identified for a 10-year maintenance overlay. It's a collector street, so we do have it on a 10-year cycle. And that's slated to come up here next year as well. So if we did want to get ahead of it, and that would be very limited DPW work, really just pick up the phone and call the contractor. So that's another one that we could add. With any, with your permission, I'd like to continue kind of with those streets in mind. I think the only one that maybe I'd need a definite yes on, other than East Union, which hopefully, I think you said yes at the last meeting. Just wanted to see the number on that. But would be Kennedy Hill Road. We're right there, and it makes sense if they're going to bring the reclaimer in for a short section. We want to hit that one early when they do the other reclaims in town.
Okay.
Quick question.
Yes, Peter.
Did we ever do anything with Upton Lane?
I don't believe so. I don't believe so. I have to go back and look at files. I don't believe that was.
Because that was the real issue up there with the asphalt, everything that completely failed, and now we're almost dirt road at the end.
Yeah, it's pretty bad out there.
Could you take a look at that again, Adam?
I can. While we're talking here, I'm looking right now. Upton was, it's got a little bit of a big number, but it was scheduled for reclaim in 2023. But might be something that could be flexed. I just hate to spend, it's that age-old problem. Do we spend short money to know it's not going to last long, or do we try to buy ourselves some time with a Band-Aid shim and just push that reclaim date out a little bit, which I'm not opposed to if you're not, certainly.
They came in a couple of years ago, and I think that we all agreed that it's something that needed to be done. And I thought Megan said it was going to be this year, but I may be wrong. Well, maybe you could just take a look at it and see if there's something you can do to help those people up there.
Okay, we'll do for sure. That we do still have a true contingency built into the number for Warren Ave. I hesitate to get ahead of myself too much in Pinardville because we could find anything in there once we start digging. But there's a possibility for a Band-Aid shim. We could certainly place a phone call late into the season on Upton if we needed to.
Yeah, I would agree with Peter. I was actually just on Upton earlier today, and it is in rough shape. And, if we can do something to provide some relief for them, even if it is a Band-Aid to get them through a little bit, then, I'd certainly support that.
Okay, yeah, I'll check it out tomorrow.
Any other questions for Adam on his report? Let's see.
Quick question. I got a question for Derek, though. I mean,
Okay,
we're going through talking money. How's the revenues looking, and where are we at on the TAN?
Where are we at on what, Peter? I'm sorry, I didn't hear the end of it.
The TAN.
So the June revenues for motor vehicle were looking very good. Those did get back on track in June. We have been advised by the governor's office that and room distribution should remain the same of what we got last year, what we planned for, that the funds in the biennium budget for municipalities, I think it was about 200,000, that we should get that. We did anticipate that highway block down a little bit, but we haven't got the final word on that. And then I can update a little bit of where we are with grants and where we're considering shifting to bring to your next meeting. But right now, revenues look pretty good. The property tax collection as of it was either July 1st or July 15th is actually ahead of where we were last year. So we won't need the TAN right now. We'll see how those uncollected property taxes that we have every year on where they actually come down in the coming months. But we are doing relatively well, all things considered.
My reason for asking that at this point is, as we talk about savings we may be getting on the road plan, if we use those savings instead of a TAN, it would be advantageous to us, I think. So.
And I think what we anticipated talking with Danielle and Adam, the highway block grant's about 400,000, and we thought it might be down between 7 and 10%, which is between 40 and 50,000, which is that contingent that Adam is talking about.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Peter, you any other questions, Peter? No? Any other members of the board?
That was it, Carlos. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Any other members from the board? Questions? Is there an action item there, Derek? I trying to check my notes.
No, there's no action item on the department updates. I believe you do have a report from the
We do.
public library, and then you also have the police chief, the fire chief, myself, and Parks and Rec director on the line.
Right.
Kind of give a brief update.
Yeah, there is a report from the public library. Kelly, I think you're engaged in that. You want to address that just briefly?
Okay, folks, thanks.
Sorry, did Adam have more or was that just him signing off?
No, we're looking to you, Kelly, for something on the library.
That was it, Kelly. Thanks.
Gotcha. All right, thanks. Yep, so from the last library board meeting, we accepted a slew of donations for the summer experience. That's been signed up for and utilized really well by the community, so they're excited about that. Their roof has been repaired. They have been working on getting some quotes for some additional building maintenance that needs to be happening. And they're reopening in phase 3, which where they're scheduling computer usage and things like that. And definitely growing learning experience. But, you know, they moved into their budget and figured out how to absorb those things. Also, I just want to mention that they have another bout of Courageous Community Conversations coming up. So you can visit the library's website to see all the amazing programming they'll have coming up in the next few months.
Right?
And that's it.
Any questions for Kelly? Thank you, Kelly. Let's see, let's move to fire and EMD. Chief Allard? Anything you want to share with us as for a department update?
Yes, thank you for asking. So as far as EMD, so we certainly continue to monitor our local and national information on COVID-19. Over the last several weeks, the town administrator and I have been working, seems like tirelessly with regards to get our arms wrapped around the number of cases within the town that's being reported. And on July 16th, there was an announcement sent out to the community kind of explaining exactly what had been happening. I just wanted to reiterate a little bit on that. So the numbers that had been reported were, according to DHHS, linked to an outbreak at long-term healthcare facilities in town. That's why our numbers continue to be high. 1 hour ago, people go to nh.gov/COVID-19. That outbreak has been closed. So the number of cases that people will see starting probably tomorrow, the day after, reported usually on WMUR, will be between 1 and 4 active cases now. So that outbreak has been closed, and we're more in line to where we thought we were. Just wanted to get that out there. So again, that website, if people are listening or are watching this again, is nh.gov/COVID-19.
That's certainly a bit of good news. Thank you.
It's a tremendous amount of good news, and I can see the town administrator smiling. So on the fire department side, all our members continue to remain healthy. Our call volumes have been steadily increasing lately. And one I do want to touch on July 17th, the fire department responded to a cardiac arrest within the community. And I just really want to personally thank members of the public and police officer Chris Patton for performing bystander CPR prior to our arrival. If it had not been for their quick action, the outcome of the patient would have been much different. So thank you to those members of the community and Officer Patton for doing that bystander CPR. It's so important for us to do that. And once COVID kind of backs up a little bit and we're able to open our department, that's one of the initiatives we actually want to provide to the public is a community CPR program where they can come in and learn from us. It's so important, and it's really what saves lives. So that's my quick update. And
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate that.
you're welcome.
How about the police department? Chief?
Yes, thank you. And Chief Allen, thank you for that. I echo his thoughts on Officer Patton and the responding citizens. That's great work. For as far as the police department's update, well, we're all healthy, which is good. We had a couple of officers who were quarantined due to having some symptoms. It seems that the state's a little bit backlogged on testing, so it took a little bit of time for us to get our results back. So that was a little bit of a issue, but we managed to work through that. As far as the other good news, we've come to finally get some good candidates to fill our 31st position. So hopefully after tonight, we can offer a position to our 31st police officer to be fully staffed and potentially a couple of new dispatchers. So that's really good news for us. Everybody's been kind of plugging away. We've been down 5 police officers here for the last few months, and we're all getting tired. So it's time for us to get that break. So, but overall, we're doing well, and we're plugging along. And everybody that's having the ability to take a few days off or vacation have been doing that. Much needed vacation time is here. So,
Yeah, no, please pass along our gratitude for the folks who are helping to pick up the slack and keep things moving forward. It's greatly appreciated.
I will. Thank you.
I'm just curious, how long is it taking to get the results from the testing back?
So we had one batch that took roughly 5 days, and just the other day it was 9 days.
Okay,
So, and that's telling them that we're first responders.
right.
We thought we'd get a little priority, but not. So,
Good try. Thank you. Anything else, Chief, you want to share?
that's pretty much it for now. Thank you.
Any questions for Chief from the board members? Okay, thank you. How about Parks and Rec? Rick, are you still on with us?
Yes, I am.
Hey, Rick.
As far as programs go, every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we've been doing, on Tuesdays, we have a basketball program that goes on in the morning. We have 2 sessions, a morning session and an afternoon session for about an hour and a half with 10, 12 kids per session. And then on Wednesdays, we do an art in the park program, same concept. And then on Thursdays, we do a pickleball program. And each of the sessions are full. They register by Rec Desk, and this will go until the middle of August. Aaron's also created something called a craft bundle. So people can sign up, and they come to the rec building, and she has like a little bag full of crafts that they can take away and do on their own. So that's going pretty good. I'd like to give a big shout out to Dave Steffen at GTV. He did a phenomenal job. He did a little, we took some pictures that folks sent us of themselves, of their finish time for the Goffstown Gallop, the virtual Gallop. And we sent that over to Dave, and he created an outstanding video. I don't know if you've seen it. It's on Facebook and different places, but Dave's an unbelievable guy. He does magic with that stuff. So big shout out to Dave on that. Facility wise, starting this coming Monday, we're going to hit the irrigation phase of the new sports complex. So that will all start going in. And hopefully by the end of August, we'll have that completed. And then come September, we'll be able to hydro seed it and start going to the next phase of that. So that's going pretty good. Also on the 4th of August, the fence bid will come in, and we'll get that rolling too. The trees, we're not going to plant the trees until September. Better month to get that planted. Give them a better start anyhow. Other than that, we finished a roof that we've been trying to finish for about 1.5 years now, 2 years, on the back of the building. So we finally completed that, and staying very busy. Now all our irrigated fields, they're all growing. They all been fertilized. They're all been treated. So you're looking at mowing those fields twice a week, possibly 3 times a week. So we're pretty busy. 3 of us are all healthy and we're doing fine.
Rick, what's your take on the decision to keep the pools closed? Have you heard anything, or what's your sense on how that's being received?
I've heard a lot of different things. You know, I've heard, yes, I understand, it makes sense. I've heard that, you know, you're crazy, you could have made it work.
Yeah.
It kind of depends who you talk to, honestly. But all in all, I mean, I haven't really heard that much.
Well, okay, good.
I'm
Just
sure
curious.
others do have.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, thanks, Rick. Anybody have questions for Rick?
Just a comment, Collis.
Sure,
I
Peter.
think the initial closing of the pools drew some criticism, but after that, I think everything calmed down. We weren't the only ones.
Yeah, I think you're right. It seemed to settle down pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I think people understood, you know, why we took the action we did. And I think for the most part, I think people support it. Sure, you're always going to get some that, you know, swimming's important to them. They want to be able to swim. But I think public health, most people understood the public health implications and understood the action. Anybody else have questions for Rick? Okay. How about Derek, Town Hall?
Yes, Town Hall continues to be open to residents Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. The employees here are doing a wonderful job in the customers, using the new customer barriers and following social distancing guidelines. We've really been focused on some of the changes that came down last week in travel guidance for employees and some of the travel restrictions being recommended and advised by state health, as well as changes to the municipal relief funds, basically the state providing CARES Act funding to the town. There were some significant changes that came last week. Rather than going through and identifying costs for every piece of PPE or every item, they have authorized to offset the regular wages and salaries of budgeted police and fire. So we'll be working with the fire chief and the police chief, and I anticipate that we'll be bringing a proposal to the board at your next meeting to accept those funds as revenue into the general fund. Basically that would free up some of Danielle's time, the fire chief's time, to, instead of nickel and diming every purchase of PPE, just say, yeah, we'll take the whole amount. We've spent it on firefighters. We've spent it on police officers, and we'll take it as revenue into the general fund. And then I think we'll make that working on the final recommendation, but I anticipate we would bring that to you at the next meeting.
Great.
But other than that, we remain busy. I know the town clerk's office has been very busy handling the dog license issue, as well as they started to see quite a few requests come in for the absentee ballots, and we're going to start having part-time hours fulfilling those requests as soon as they get, I know last week when I talked to her, they did have the Democratic ballot in, but they're waiting on the Republican. I didn't get a chance to check in with her today to see if they have both now and they can start fulfilling those requests.
Okay. Anything else, Derek?
I don't have anything.
Questions from board members for Derek relative to town hall operations?
I do, of course.
Peter, sure.
Hey, Derek, do we have a standardized or purchasing that we're doing on all this PPE where all the departments are going to one source, or coordinating to get the PPE through 1 or 2 different sources, or each department going out on their own?
We've been working a lot. I know Town Hall has been working with the fire chief and the deputy fire chief to source a lot of that PPE that we've used here at Town Hall. In the case of some of the hand sanitizers or other items, we've been trying to source it, whether through our regular vendors, see the fire chief's on there. He might be able to say how he's supported some of the other departments as well.
So that's a great question. Yeah, so all the department heads have been working together. The majority of the PPE that we have in inventory at this time actually came from the state of New Hampshire at no cost. So they've been supporting us, and we were able to distribute some of that to our other departments.
I just happened to notice that a bill, when I was going through the bills yesterday or over the weekend, that there was some bills in there for PPE mask, actually, from town, I believe it was Town Hall. And I just was wondering if that's coordinated. But from what I just heard, that yes, and maybe we're running low on them, and now we're purchasing instead of getting them from the state.
Well, Chief, what are our stockpiles of PPE like?
Stockpiles are very healthy at this time.
Good.
And Peter, I don't know if that, and I'll let Danielle or Derek answer. I don't know if that was early on when we were all placing orders to try to get PPE. That may have been one that just came in prior to the state having a stockpile to be able to distribute to us.
Okay.
Anything else for Derek? Okay, I'm in a non-air conditioned portion of the house, so did I miss any department head updates?
No, you got it, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay, so that brings us now to item 9 on the agenda, which is our select board discussion. Derek, can you lead us through that, please? Because it has several different items that we need to discuss and bring up.
Yes, absolutely. The first item you have under your old business is the ad hoc committee charter for the Village Piscataquag River Pedestrian Bridge Ad hoc Committee.
Okay. That is at tab
9D with a single I.
Yeah, got it. Thank you. And I think it's presented as I recollect, Derek.
We had presented this to your meeting on June 22nd.
Right.
And then there were some changes made subsequent to that, and those are shown as green. So if you actually look at the charter, those new changes made based on your discussion at that meeting are made in green. But I believe it's at the point where the board could make final changes, adopt the charter, and then seek volunteers at this point.
Yeah, the only thing I would highlight, Derek, is the date for the report of June 2021. I think that ought to be maybe put out to August, given that we're almost through July as it is, and let's not put ourselves behind the 8 ball with crunching the timeline too tight. So that was my only observation. The rest of it, I'd ask other members of the board if they have questions or suggestions or recommendations. If not, I'd like to move along with getting that ad hoc committee filled and putting them to work. Anything from board members on it?
I think we just should get moving on it.
Yep, I agree.
No more kicking the can. Let's go.
Yep, I agree. So, a motion, I guess, is in order to finalize that charter with the one, I would suggest the one change that I recommend with changing June to August.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Peter.
I'll second.
Thank you, Kelly. Motion by Peter, seconded by Kelly. Is there any discussion on the motion? Everyone understands the motion? Any discussion?
Just to make sure that your change for July to August was in that.
Yep. From June to August, yep. Okay, so seeing no further discussion, I'll call a roll. I vote yes. Kelly?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
And Chet?
Yes.
Thank you. So the motion passes to finalize the Village Piscataquag River Pedestrian Bridge Ad hoc Committee Charter. Motion passes 5-0-0. And then next, What?
The next item is a very significant item.
Oh, yes.
It's proposed changes to the personnel plan. This is focused on Article 9 benefits with some revised leave policies. This would, as written, would propose to change from an annual dump of vacation leave in January to go to a rolling accrual. It would also adopt some changes to some significant changes to personal days, sick leave. It would also adopt bereavement leave. Traditionally, we use emergency leave to deal with bereavement, as well as some changes to military leave, FMLA, as well as retirement payout. These are very significant changes. We have heard some comments and some feedback from employees, for non-union employees. So what I would suggest at this time is I have highlighted some board considerations and some questions. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. But what we would recommend is to continue consideration of this, to answer any questions the board may have, pivot on them, and when you get to a point, potentially put them out for 30, 60 days for feedback from non-union employees. So we can, originally we had anticipated that all these changes would happen on January 1st, but that's kind of where we are. This is really that first draft of changes.
Yeah, thank you. So let's hear from some of the board members. This is very significant, so we'll open it up to the board members for some discussion on this item. Peter?
Mr. Chair,
Kelly?
thank you.
Yes.
I would like to request that, we kind of walk through this and hear just initial thoughts. I would absolutely love to have employee feedback on these changes and to kind of explain the benefits of one system over another and how it would change for employees for their usage as well as for the managers, the department heads or whomever's managing kind of the use of time, things like that.
Sure, that's a great idea. Derek, can you just hit the high points on some of the significant changes? And what it means?
Yes. So what I'll do is I will walk you through it. After the cover memo that does kind of a high level explanation, you do actually have the red line proposal.
Yep.
We have proposed some general leave policies with required use of accrued hours when people are working less. I think we've received some feedback from some salary employees that this may go against the idea of what a salary employee actually is. So I think this one would need some feedback from employees as well as the select board. There's also, we've added in some job abandonment language for an employee that stops showing up for work and may not provide notice of sick leave. So this is, again, some general language to go across all. We've reviewed the legal holidays. We know that each department, some departments follow their CBAs. There may be some departments that split their non-union, their CBAs, or in the case of the DPW transfer station where they have a very set schedule, they've kind of on their own. So we'll have to look at that. But this is really the idea to identify those 10 holidays across the departments. The big one is under vacation leave. As we brought up at the last meeting, vacation use is down a bit. The balances being carried are quite high. This proposes going from an annual dump where people currently accrue their vacation leave in the year before they receive it. Everybody receives it on January 1st, and you have to use it that entire year based on your length of service in the previous year. So you basically earn your hours the year before. This proposed change would be to go to a rolling accrual where you earn it on a monthly basis and you earn those hours. What we did was we put the earning rate we basically brought forward what people are currently earning at. So if you work from 0 to 5 years, you earn at a certain rate. So we carry that earning rate forward, but you would earn it on a monthly basis. So you might earn 2 days or 2 and a fraction per month. And then what we proposed was you'd be able to carry your annual accrual plus 50%. So that would help in departments such as town hall, when we might have to close for snowstorms or something in December. Right now, if the select board chair and the town administrator deem it an emergency, or there's a state of emergency by the governor's office, we pay with emergency time. If it isn't, you're asking those employees to choose between, because again, they might be out of vacation time, to make the unsafe travel into town hall. This, if they're able to continually carry that accrued leave throughout the year and it doesn't expire on December 31st, they might make the choice to use that vacation because of bad commuting. We have some people that commute a mile or less. We have some people that commute an hour to get to work. And also it allows people to kind of build up. You might have a year like this year where they only use 2 or 3 weeks and want to carry some forward to next year when it might be more reasonable to use. So that was really the idea. I think the message that we heard from the board was a rolling accrual was preferred. Again, the board could pivot off that if that's not the board's preference. This is really that first attempt to do that. And I guess I would say if any board members had questions, I'd be happy to answer them, or we can do them all at the end.
Well, why don't we do it as we go through them, Derek, so they stay fresh in our mind. So the concept of the rolling accrual, 150% of the actual annual accrual. What are folks' thoughts on that concept? I'm personally okay with it. I think it sets some good boundaries and makes it clear as to what the expectations are. But I'd like.
Do we have the schedule on 1 to 5, 5 to 15, or whatever I don't see it here. Is it in this packet someplace?
So what you have is a vacation accrual table. What we envisioned is how it's calculated each month. If you look at that table and you didn't create it, it's quite confusing. What we envisioned when we met with Vice Chair Boyer was to go through, and if you're a 40-hour a week employee and you've been employed for X number of years, we'll have a matrix that you can move. Okay, this is what you'll get on a monthly basis. This is what you'll accrue on a yearly basis. And what we were going to do is build that matrix out so finance would have that. They'd be able to, answer those questions on a one-on-one basis with people. Again, how many hours do you work? What is your regular schedule? How many years have you been here? Get it. And then we could also, depending on their data, okay, when are you going to move up to the next one? And what we would build out is that matrix. So you do not have that matrix in front of you currently. What you have is the calculation and how the calculation works. What we could do is, for a future meeting, is provide you with that matrix and how we envision implementing that.
So somebody that comes on board in the first year, they according to what I'm seeing here, vacation accrual table would automatically have 2 weeks.
They would accrue. Again, it's going to depend on when they come. If they came on January 1st, through that whole year, they would accrue 80 hours. And that would be reduced because that gets divided over 12 months. Those 80 hours, again, for a 40-hour work. So if you come in halfway through the year, you're only going to earn 40 hours during the year. And you'd be able to carry those over into the next year, or following the vacation use policies, then you'd be able to use it once it's available.
But non-union employees, like in town hall, only work 35 hours a week, right?
Yes, so that accrual would be based on 35 hours, not 40.
I guess the way I'm looking at this, schedule here, it got kind of confusing because it says 0 to 5 years, they have 80 hours, but that's not necessarily true.
That's based on a 40-hour schedule. So everybody else would be prorated after that. Again, that would be that full matrix that we can provide the next meeting.
Yeah, I think we need the more detail before we approve it. I mean, I see some good things in here. Some stuff that we've talked about, but I want to see a little bit more of the detail.
And
Yeah,
from-
that was just the example we used to simplify it, but it would be on a graded scale per what your scheduled hours are. And we just didn't do all the math for it first, is, making sure we were aligned with what everyone thought was a good idea.
Sure, I understand that, but if you're looking for an approval tonight, I'd like to see those details and not just what you're telling me. I want to see it in writing. So as we move forward, we really have it concrete and there's no guessing.
This
This
is
is what I
again,
meant.
just to get initial thoughts so that we can go back and do additional drafts.
Yeah, again, we see this as the first draft. We're not looking for approval. But rather than taking little bites at the apple, I think we took a big chunk of it and just kind of put it out there so we can start getting feedback, comments, see if we're meeting the board's desires, or if we need to course correct.
Yeah, I like the direction it's heading in. But I also understand Peter and perhaps others wanting to see more detail on this. So I think what we'll do is table this until the next meeting so you can provide some of that additional detail.
If it's all right with you, Mr. Chair, can I just go through the rest of the articles
Sure,
and just give you the high level?
Absolutely.
Other questions?
I have one more question then, Derek, if you're going to do that. It says remove the cap for sick leave. Allow employees to accrue any amount of sick leave at current accrual rates. Are you saying that you don't want to cap it and somebody can continue their sick leave for 10 years and then at the end they can just cash out on it?
No, I think we've tried to do quite a few things here. One of the items is we do carry a sick bank. This is not something that it's basically every year at the end of the year, people donate, if they meet the minimum qualifications, they donate 2 days to a sick bank. And then we carry, in our accounting books, we carry designated fund balance that's set aside for this sick bank. We don't have a lot of people that use it, fortunately, and it is kind of an accounting issue. What we're proposing is maybe re-looking at how we do sick leave. Rather than capping it at 30 days and cashing it out at retirement. As it's proposed here, it is, unlimited, but I think some of the department heads have provided some feedback that might not be the best way, but maybe we do look at giving more than just 30 days. Because ultimately, if somebody is out on sick leave, their job is protected by FMLA for 12 weeks. So at that 12-week period, it's then they can ask for an extension, but it's really the board determination if they still have job protection at that period. So we're not looking to put people on sick leave forever, but we're trying to relook at how we do sick and how we do the sick bank. Because what we also envision is coupling this with shortening the time for short-term disability. Currently, you have to be out for 28 days before short-term disability kicks in, which it's very difficult. You might have somebody that's out on maternity, you might have somebody else. That burns through, if they're only carrying a max of 30 days, that burns through 20 of their days right there. So we're kind of trying to reimagine how we use sick leave, how we use sick bank and short-term disability all together.
Okay, then my question, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Peter. I'll wait.
So, then my question is, isn't there union, like the fire union, don't they have a sick bank provision in their contract?
Some of the union memberships do. I know of at least one that does not. And this is for non-union personnel subject to the personnel plan. This is not for the CBAs.
I understand that, but in the past, we've always said that we don't want to treat non-union different from union. And I think when we start doing this, we are, and then when we go to do a union contract, well, then they're gonna say, well, we're doing this for the non-union. So I think we have to be careful when we start. We have to look at the whole picture, whether it's union or non-union. That's just my feeling. I think you throw something out and then all of a sudden everybody wants it and it's negotiated in a couple of contracts.
No, I agree. And maybe this isn't the best way to do it, but unfortunately, we have CBAs tied in different years. Somebody's got to go first. And, when we started re-looking at vacation and personal days, we kind of, one of the things that is very time consuming to track by both finance and the auditors is the sick bank. The sick bank is not something that you typically see in municipal personnel policies anymore. They provide for short-term disabilities, or they allow people to purchase AFLAC as insurance for that. So, we kind of saw this as an opportunity of maybe we need to rethink the way that we treat sick leave and the sick bank.
So we're talking about non-union employees here now, as opposed to those that go through the CBA process, and they can deal with that every time that CBA comes up for renegotiations. But I can tell you, in general, I am a big proponent of sick banks. I've seen them work. I've seen the benefit that they provide to people who are in real need. I've also seen how folks who are eager to donate their sick time to others to help benefit them. And I think I've seen just such tremendous goodwill come out of it that I like the concept of sick banks, and I'm a proponent of them, but that's just my general comment.
Mr. Chair, can I add something, please?
Sure. Of
Thanks.
course.
And another thing, just to comment on the sick leave, something that we talked in great length about was sort of de-incentivizing sick time. So we made to give people more time in their vacation time so that they could cash out as an equivalency. But as you mentioned, having it there for people truly to use as sick time and not as some sort of cash out. There's a couple different ways we can do that, but really just to make it for sick time, which is why we took off the cap on that. Additionally, I mean, then again, that's up to opinion, what people's input would be. And I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on that, but again, giving the max accrual time, giving extra for employees to be able to accrue vacation time that they could cash out and carry over, and making those max amounts equivalent to their years of service, and things like that. So it ends up equaling the same amount of ability employees would have to cash out time or to use time, but it just really takes away that incentive of sick time on some sort of reward system, if you will.
Other board members want to weigh in?
This is what I had spoke about last time we spoke, Collis, and I kind of like what I see here in front of me. I've gone through it, but I've not gone completely through it yet. And I think you said it. I think we should sit and look at it a little bit. And if there are any other changes that Derek would like to make, let him come forth with the changes and we can sit and review it again.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
Yep.
Hey, Collins,
Yeah, Peter.
I don't want to confuse our current situation with the future policies. Our current situation was because of COVID, nobody was taking their vacations, and we were going to possibly extend vacation time. And I don't want to set that as the precedent of what we're doing here.
Yeah.
And that's not what we're doing, right, Derek?
No, we are not. We're not looking to, you have not received any requests from employees to carry over vacation time. As we get to the end of July and the end of August, the typical time when people use vacation, we can see where those balances are, bring those back to the board. Again, we saw this as a potential opportunity because we have heard from individual board members the interest in a rollover, because I know at the end of every year, you do have that interest, you do have those requests to roll weeks into the following year for a variety of reasons. And you also see mass retirements in January and February after people get the dump. We kind of envision those changes might remedy those two situations that board members had individually commented on.
Anybody else?
And I guess the only two other items that I'll just touch on is we did add in bereavement leave. This has been handled by emergency leave, and we have no written policy for how many days are given based on the relationship. So we've tried to define that following the Society of HR Management recommendations. And we've also taken a stab at rewriting military leave. Military leave was one paragraph. It was not very specific. It has been administered in various methods over the years, depending on the individual circumstances. So what we're trying to do is get that a little bit more exact. And, you know, if the board chooses to table it, I know Danielle and I would be happy to meet with any of you to go over these items. Or if there's direction from the board to pivot in a certain direction, we can definitely do that. And this is really, again, a first draft to kind of see if we've made the changes that the board was looking for and just mentioned, or if we need to make further changes.
So we have a group of different types of leaves. So we're talking about emergency leave, bereavement leave, military leave, and then there's just sort of other leaves. Are there certain types or of these leaves that folks want to comment on or ask for detail on or make suggestions on changes? Or how do folks want to deal with the remainder of these types of leave?
But my impression, you said you were going to table this.
I know, but I'm asking if there's specific to each of these types, if there's anyone that jumps out at anybody, if they have for instance, a big concern with emergency leave or bereavement leave, or something that they had in the back of their minds that they wanted to share now, as opposed to kicking a can down the road any further. If we can get it on the table, and so be it. Are there any of these types of leaves that folks would want to comment specifically on at this point? And if not, we'll move it along and wait for folks to give it some more consideration and come back to it, and we can table it and revisit it at a later time.
Well, I think isn't that what we're asking for now? We want to take a better look at it. I mean,
Yeah,
if
I
you
do,
go through the packet, I mean, if you go through some of this, there's absolutely no way I can read it. There's just, maybe I'm too old, I don't know, but the lessons, let's have to buy a magnifying glass or something, because you can't read it all. It's one of the deals where it was in the fine print. And I want to make sure that I understand the fine print.
Yeah, track changes and comments can be difficult to follow along. That's for sure. When you got strikeouts and inserts, it gets a little dicey. But yeah, again, if there's something that people have had in their mind for a long time and want to throw it out, it would just help at this point. If not, we can certainly ask Derek to clean it up a bit based upon what we've heard so far, and bring it back so we can revisit it.
So do we still have an HR committee?
Yes, we do. They have not been active over recent years.
Is that something we should activate? Is Chet on that?
Yeah, I think Chet had some thoughts on that.
I believe Vice Chair Boyer is on the HR committee,
Okay.
and Selectman Bowen is assigned to the Wellness Committee.
Okay, okay.
Right.
Well, shouldn't the HR committee be taking a stab at this also?
Would seem appropriate.
Yeah.
So just to back up for a second, from a wellness perspective, that's why I support what it looks like we're doing, which is gathering more feedback from the people that this actually impacts before we make any final decisions on future plans. So I've already met with both chiefs, and I'm meeting with Derek and Adam on Friday from a wellness perspective. And hopefully we can develop some added questions about these specific types of changes and how it affects people in real time. And at that point, I'll have a lot more, I think, information to work from.
That'd be great, Chet. Kelly, how about,
Chet, you also have to remember who you represent.
I'm not sure what you mean by that. Can you explain?
People who put you in office. You know, you're going to protect their interests too. So you want to make sure you're covering everybody and not just working for one side or the other. And that's what I always try to do. I take both, look and try to come up with a median solution, and that's the way you have to. But you do what you want.
Well, I think that when we have employees that are feeling productive and appreciated, that we get more out of them, and I think that's really the place I'm coming from.
yeah, and I think we all take seriously the fact that we all are, report back to the voters ultimately. What else? Well, where do we want to go with this, folks?
Well, table it and get some more information. I got to try to read this. I'm going to have to go out to buy a magnifying glass tomorrow so I can read it, or put it up on my laptop and see if I can blow it up enough so I can read it.
Okay, so Derek,
We can share, I can share an electronic version. I think we had shared through Dropbox, the draft version. I will send another copy out to board members.
that's great, Derek. Then let's table this and bring it up in our September meeting. Okay?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Kelly?
Thanks. You just said bring it up at the September meeting?
Yeah. What does it look? What do our September meetings look like, Derek?
Well, we have 2 meetings in August coming up as well. But we haven't set agendas for September at this point.
Right. Yeah, I'm just thinking August is a pretty heavy vacation month, so I don't know what folks' plans are, but I don't want to push it out any farther than we have to, but I want to recognize that summer vacation schedules are probably going to become an issue. At any rate, what would you recommend, Derek? How far is there?
We can collect feedback. What I'll do is I will send out an electronic copy again to select board members so they can see that. I can collect feedback from department heads. I know we have started to get some of those to see where there might be some issues with the proposed language that we put out there. We can look at some other models for some of those items that do seem to create some heartburn. And then maybe that first meeting on September, bring a second draft that's a little bit more refined to the board.
Okay, that's great. That sounds like a good plan forward. Why don't we do that? So we're still in the information gathering.
What happened to the HR committee? We're not going to get them involved in this? Isn't this right up their alley? Isn't that what that committee is for? If not, why do we even have it?
Peter, as far as I know, it's only me. Are there additional members I don't know about?
In the past, the HR committee was formed when there were major changes. I know that came down when there was discussion about changes to healthcare, probably 8 or 9 years ago, when there were significant changes to healthcare that were implemented by the select board at that time. The HR committee was an opportunity to kind of get that, not necessarily design plan reform, but if you'd like to have the HR committee made up of non-union employees, 1 or 2 from each department, it will be very difficult to get those people to design plan reform. What it's been done is to answer those questions so that they can bring it back to their departments and bring common concerns forward, but not necessarily for the actual working that goes into the personnel plan.
Kelly, what are your thoughts on this, the whole HR committee and its existence and how it's running, and what this is kind of in your wheelhouse. What do you think about this?
Well, as far as I know, it's only me. I think it's been created sort of in an ad hoc basis. But as Danielle and Derek and I met for a few hours on 2 occasions to kind of work through the thought process of some of this, we did discuss soliciting feedback from many different groups. And like I said, the select board was our kind of first stop to make sure that this is what
Yeah.
you all had in mind. I mean, I certainly value employee opinion and department head opinion, not quite knowing the history of who was on the HR committee in the past. I mean, I would assume that those were the people who made up the group. So, I mean, I think if we can talk about a way to perhaps solicit more feedback or target specific employees, perhaps in that same fashion with the survey, so that it could be more accessible to different departments or something like that. I hadn't put too much thought in it other than getting select board feedback initially and kind of going back for another draft before we figured out what the next steps were. However, I'm happy to work in whatever capacity we need.
So Kelly, would you be willing to work directly with Derek to try and figure out some steps forward and how we can move this forward and what's the appropriate way to move it forward?
Sure. Yeah, we can certainly bring something back or at the assigned meeting, September, I think you said.
Yeah, that'd be great. I appreciate that, Kelly. Thank you.
Well, going back to the HR committee, do we have one or not? If not, let's dissolve it. If there's no such thing as a committee of one, which Kelly has been doing on her own, and we don't have any feedback from the employees. I can't understand why we can't put, even if it's just the department heads and a member of the board of selectmen as the committee to put their heads together, why we just can't do that. And we're the boss here, and we can determine what we're going to do and what we're not going to do. And I think we need to have a full committee research this and do. That's why it was put together. Derek, you can get Kelly the information on why and who was on the committee before, and go through the proper steps. That's what that committee was designed for.
Yeah, and Kelly has offered to step forward and take the lead on this and work with Derek on it. I appreciate that. And I think that's the proper first step. And she can look at the history of this and together with Derek, find out what it was established, how it was established, what's happened over the years, where we are now, and what the appropriate next steps would be. Do we either reinvigorate it? Do we dissolve it, as you may be suggesting, Peter? But I think the first step is to have those conversations to get some background to bring to us.
I agree. I mean, there's no sense of having a committee if you're not going to use it. I mean, that's.
I agree. So Kelly, I appreciate you offering to work with Derek on that. I think that's a start. And if you guys could work together and, come up with some ideas to bring back to the board, then we can further the discussion at the next meeting or the next September meeting, whatever it is. Thank you. What else we got, Derek?
Yes, the final item, there was some discussion about, I know there was some feedback online, and a couple of individual select board members reached out. I know Chairman Adams, you reached out, but to review the ad hoc committee's recommendations for Glen Lake waterfront, specifically the waterfront issues at the Glen Lake boat ramp. So what you have in your packet is the excerpt from the recommendation from the final report delivered in March. And what I've done is I've highlighted those priority recommendations and the specific waterfront recommendations for Glen Lake.
Yeah, and you can see those in the packet on page 5 under tab, whatever it is, 9, triple I. I think another important one needs to be highlighted is the fines for parking violations. I mean, that one's been brought up by a lot of people, including the police department, that, the current fine situation is not a deterrent. It's merely a parking fee, if you will, to park there for the day and enjoy the amenities. There's a suggestion been made to increase the minimum to $100. I think that's totally appropriate. Obviously, it would take an ordinance change. It would need to be brought forward, including public hearings and whatnot. But I certainly want to highlight that one as well.
Do we need to get a motion on that, Collis, to go forward with that? Or is it too late in the season to even worry about it? And I'm all for moving that to $100. Let's start. If you need to start the process, let's start the process.
Yeah.
I don't think why we'd be waiting on it. Let's not sit on our hands. Let's move.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think the time of year has anything to do with it. If we think it's appropriate to take those actions, then we ought to notice it and hold the public hearings and then change the ordinance with the fine increase. So I'm certainly all in favor of moving forward with that. I think that is a huge first step to trying to get things under control down there. And we can talk about carry in, carry out in the trash and all of that. And that ebbs and flows from season to season, from year to year. It's something we're always going to be dealing with. Rick has weighed in on it and says, it's manageable. It can be done. We can work with it. So I think we can get our arms around that one. And I think the next thing to get our arms around is the fines down there, making them an appropriate deterrent.
So I'll make the motion that we go ahead and start the procedure to raise our fines to $100 at Glen Lake.
Thank you, Peter. I like that motion. Can I get a second?
Second that.
That's a second from Mark. Thank you. So the motion is to move forward with the process of increasing the fines down at Glen Lake for parking violations. Yeah, so I had a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that? All right, if not, I'll call the roll. I vote yes. Kelly?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes, sir.
And Chad?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes 5-0-0. Derek, can you start the process on that, please?
Yes, I can do that.
Thank you. Anything else on the ad hoc that is of urgency that we need to discuss right now?
No
we already-
emergency, no.
Okay. No. Anything else on the ad hoc, folks? I lost my. Okay, seeing nothing, we're now at the action matrix. Oh boy, now I lost my place.
Well, we already discussed the changes to the personnel
Personnel plan, yep.
And, are we doing anything with the Facebook stuff, Derek? Or the communication to the strategy, updating Facebook? Do we do that?
Right now, each department either designates someone or does it themselves to update their own Facebook page and maintain their communication, whether it's through Facebook, responding to messages, or on the website. So that's currently how they follow the town social media policy to do that.
Okay, thank you. The vehicles, I think, are pretty straightforward. Is there anything on the vehicle updates that folks want to discuss? All right. That's our action matrix. Anybody want to add anything to the action matrix at this point? Okay, seeing none. We do have some non-public to go into, but first I want to call for a second public comment. This is an opportunity for anybody who's out there who'd like to provide public comment. This is the second public comment opportunity. Derek, do you see anybody online who would like to comment at this point?
No, Mr. Chair, there's no one on the telephone line.
Okay, so that wraps up our public portion of the agenda. We do need to go into non-public. I want to thank the folks who have joined us tonight, this evening. I hope you all stay safe, stay healthy, stay sane, support one another through these difficult times, and we'll all get there together. Need a motion to go into
I'll make a
non-public.
motion, we go into non-public session under RSA 91-A:32, A, compensation, B, hiring, and C, matters adversely affecting reputation.
Thank you.
Second.
By Peter, seconded by Mark. Any discussion on that motion? I'll call the roll. I vote yes. Kelly?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes, sir.
And Chet?
Yes.
Okay, the motion to go into non-public passes 5-0-0. So this is the end of our public portion of the meeting. Again, stay well and